He is the president of the Academy and the Advancement of Human Values and the founder of Barrett Values Center. It's the global human awareness initiative. And so what I really want to say about this is when we talk about raising human consciousness, the framework that Richard has been doing for his entire life after being the transportation engineer, which he'll probably talk about, into a transformation leader. Richard's work has really framed a lot of the levels of consciousness and what we need to do to move forward as a world into a higher level of consciousness. And the Humanity Awareness Initiative, which you're going to hear of today, is a program that can do just that. So stay tuned. I'm glad you're here, and I'm happy to have you all participate and listen to my friend, Richard Barrett.
Thank you, Lawrence and Heather and Patricia, for all those wonderful introductions. I am going to move right into a presentation. However, we're going to have plenty of time for talking to each other. And my plan is to try to stimulate your ideas and harvest your thoughts, because we need all the help possible. Sometimes people ask me, do you know what you're doing? And I say, I haven't got a clue, but I'm going to get there with the help of everyone. Okay, so here we go. We're going to share a presentation now. Hopefully I'm going to, I don't know quite how to do this, but I think I'll get there in a moment. I'm going to share that. That's not what you want to see, but this is what you want to see. And I'm going into presentation mode right now. Is that okay?
Perfect, Richard. Thank you.
Okie dokie. Let's get going. I got not much time and a lot to say. Okay, so who am I? I'm Richard Barrett, president of the Academy. I want to point out that the Academy started 2 years ago, and not just to discover, but to incubate new ideas. And that actually is what Humanity Awareness Initiative is about. We've been incubating that idea. And actually, I've been incubating that idea for 4 years now. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. So, yeah, 4 years ago, I asked the question, what would it look like if a nation was operating from the worldview of humanity awareness? I'll describe that worldview in a moment. And we got together with 28 people in 2017, with 12 people in 2017. And I see actually some of the people in this picture are on the call today. And we spent 4 days trying to answer this question. And after that, I wrote the book on worldviews. So basically, my theory is this: it's built on the 7 levels of consciousness model and spiral dynamics. Since Homo sapien arrived on the evolutionary scene 200,000 years ago, there have been 6 worldviews, and each worldview has precipitated a change in human living conditions. Now, the worldview of humanity awareness, which is now emerging, I see it in people, but I don't yet see it in government, represents a 7th worldview, a collective shift from the individuating stage of personal development to the self-actualizing stage. Again, I will explain that in a few minutes. I believe the survival of our species is dependent on the adoption of this worldview, and it links very strongly with the UN SDGs. So, what's the purpose? The central key idea in this worldview of humanity awareness in the initiative is to accelerate the growth in human consciousness and societal well-being through a global training and education initiative. If we look over time, we go back to 200,000 years ago, we were all hunters and gatherers, and we lived in the worldview of clan awareness. And there are still people on the planet living in the remote parts of the Amazon, for example, who live in this particular worldview. Then we moved into tribe awareness. In a moment, I'll tell you what triggered each of these shifts into these different worldviews. And we still have a lot of people in Africa and in North America, actually, living in, and in various indigenous populations living in tribe awareness. Then came along state awareness. This was, this was the time of the Greeks, the Romans, it was all about power. In tribe awareness, we all lived together, we all worked together for the good of the tribe. In state awareness, the ego emerged, and it was all about power and conquering and empires and all of that good stuff. And then that really wasn't working very well. So around the 5th and 6th century, religion came in, and these leaders began to modify their approach, and we moved into what they call nation awareness, which was very much dominated to a large extent by a religious approach to governance and leadership. And then around the 16th century, 17th century, yes, the power of the religious groups began to wane, and people began to move into what I call now wealth awareness, which is pretty much a dominant worldview still around today. And it really doesn't pay much attention to the environment, and it's responsible for a lot of the problems we've got into. And out of that came a new worldview called people awareness. And as I'll show you in a few minutes, there are very few nations operating at this worldview, but it represents a cutting edge of societal development. And guess what? Most of these nations are the Nordics. And now we're ready, I believe, to move to humanity awareness. It's a new world view. It's the emergent world view. So what were the triggering events? So each new world view had a sort of a triggering event. Well, clan awareness came around through the Homo sapiens 200,000 years ago. And then about 10,000 years ago, we moved into the agricultural revolution, as it's sometimes called, but people began to settle and build tribes. And then we moved about 5,500 years ago into state awareness. And this was triggered by, not many people understand this, it was actually triggered by climate change. I mean, at that time, before that time, Sahara Africa was very fertile, and there were lots of people living in tribe awareness. And of course, the North Africa and parts of Asia dried up. And then there was these people had to move somewhere, and they moved into other areas, and state awareness began to appear. And again, the fundamental piece about this, which is important, is it's all about power. And of course, we still see this in quite a few nations. I'll mention that in a bit later. Then we moved into a nation awareness, as I mentioned, through the adoption of religions, wealth awareness, which came in the 16th century, people awareness. Some of the triggers here were the French Revolution, women getting voting rights, abolition of slavery, etc., etc. And well, we're into, well, the climate crisis, COVID-19, Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, go on and on and on. There is a new worldview emergent. So in humanity awareness, we recognize that we're all members of the human race. We identify with humanity. There's no ethnic, religious, or gender divisions. We're all transnational and we are global. Now, the problems we are facing in the world right now are due to the fact we can't handle transnational and global problems because we're stuck in our identity of nations. And so we need to move out that and beyond it. And so in the worldview of humanity awareness, the approach to solving problems is going to be global, holistic, and systemic. Now, interestingly, in addition to improving social welfare, which we see in the Nordic nations, in humanity awareness, we're going to focus on psychological welfare. And this is a fundamental aspect of the whole humanity awareness movement, because it's a training and education program, which I call the internal curriculum, whereas the SDGs is the outer curriculum. It's like, this is what we have to do in the outer world, but to get there, we have to shift our minds, and the inner curriculum is what the Humanity Awareness Initiative is about. We must be able to solve our deficiency needs, as Maslow put it, in order to move to our growth needs. And so the Humanity Awareness Initiative is about that shift into growth needs. So instead of measuring happiness, and the focus now is measuring on well-being, because at different stages of development, we have different measures of well-being. So the child, the baby, measures its well-being, if it could measure, by the fact that it has food and it has water and it's warm. You know, that's what it needs. Whereas the teenager needs different things. At my age, I need different things. So at each stage of development, we have different needs. And when we get those needs met, we have a sense of well-being. So people operating from humanity awareness see other worldviews, not through completing belief structures, but through different value priorities. And that's a huge shift, because beliefs separate, values unite. And when you're able to see the value priorities, you go, oh, okay, I understand where these people are, and it's important to them where they are right now. I don't want to change that, but I do understand that it's different value priorities. Now, has anything been done at this sort of scale, you know, an approach to changing, transforming the consciousness on the planet? Well, not quite at that scale, but almost. Yes, it was in the Nordic nations from about 1860. The Nordic nations introduced what they call the Bildung program. And if you've read The Nordic Secret, you know all about it. But basically, the leaders had the foresight to see the Industrial Revolution was coming, and people were moving from villages where they had this like very localized sense of identity into towns, and those towns then were taking on sort of like people were beginning to see a larger sense of identity again. And the leaders wanted the population to author their own lives and to take part in the authoring of a new society. And I think this program was really about what I call the fourth stage of development, which was individuating, recognizing that we need a sort of sense of freedom to be who we are and to stop being controlled by our parental and cultural conditioning, but to examine at a deeper level, who are we? Why am I here? What are my values? So that was Bildung. Now, many of you have seen this before. This is the values survey, where you've got traditional versus secular values on the left, that's religious versus secular on the y-axis, and survival versus self-expression, in other words, deficiency needs versus growth needs. And if you look at the top right-hand corner, what do you see? You see all the Nordic nations up there on the right-hand corner. And these are the nations operating out of what I call people awareness. And then in the next bunch here, you see these are the ones operating from mostly from wealth awareness. And then as we go down here, we see these are mostly operations from nation awareness, and the rest are operating from what is called state awareness 1, 2, and 3. I have a whole other website that explains all of this. So how did we move up there? Well, we moved up there through democracy and through personal growth, through the Bildung approach. So bringing personal transformation to the people. That's how we got up into that top right-hand corner. So what I'm proposing is a global Bildung, not a Bildung just focused on a small region, but the whole world. So how does all that link to the SDGs and this nexus of consciousness and capital that Lawrence speaks so eloquently about? Well, as we grow individually and collectively in consciousness, we'll increase human well-being and accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. So future capital and the report that just came out on the force for good, and then we've got humanity is a force for change. And as we improve humanity awareness in terms of somebody's drawing all over my screen. It's so lovely. I didn't know I could do that. But anyhow.
Not me, Richard, I promise.
Yeah, well,
it's
it's really good. I would give it a C in art terms, but anyhow, it's not bad. Anyhow, the point here is, as humanity, as we grow in consciousness, we will grow in the way in which we use money in order to invest in implementing the well-being through the implementation of SDGs, and we will accelerate and improve the implementation of the SDGs through the Humanity Awareness Initiative. And in fact, it's a sort of like a sister program, I see it, to the SDGs, a global awareness of improving consciousness. I was just reading this morning, the Stockholm Resilience Center, they produced a report, and they said the only way to achieve the SDG goals by 2030 is if is a transformational change beginning right now, including a transformation in education and investment in education, which is exactly what Humanity Awareness Initiative is about. So there's an inner syllabus and an outer syllabus. To accelerate the achievement of SDGs, we need to change consciousness and awareness. So the inner work leads to the outer work, and an increase in our inner work will be reflected in a shift in the way we do our outer work. Can any of you see all those scribbles over the screen? Yeah, I don't know where they come from. I hope somebody can clear them out.
Yeah, we'll work on it. We'll see. We can read beneath it, so we're good.
All right. So here are the stages of personal development that I talked about. There are 7 stages. The first 3 are all about meeting Maslow's deficiency needs. And then we get to the individuating stage, the transformation needs, then self-actualization and individuating and serving, and we get into growth needs. And so this is like the picture of, thank you very much. This is a picture of stages of personal development. Now this links through to the stages of societal development, the worldviews. Obviously, as people change and we reach a tipping point, we'll have a new worldview emerging. But these are roughly the ages where we normally go through these stages. Now, you can't get to these upper stages until you've individuated, and most of the people on the planet can't individuate because they don't have enough freedom and they can't meet their deficiency needs. And so we need to increase the number of people who can possibly individuate, and we can do that through this program. So how do these link? Well, clan awareness, it was all about surviving. Tribe awareness was about conforming, and then state, wealth, and nation awareness were all different stages of ego development at the differentiating stage. And then we get to the individuating stage, which was people awareness, and now self-actualizing humanity awareness. And there are other stages beyond that. So here we go. So there are currently no nations operating from the worldview of humanity awareness, but there are a growing number of people all over the world who are embracing that. So what are the nations operating from people awareness? Well, here they are, and they're all full democracies. And the nations operating from wealth awareness and ready to graduate into people awareness are these nations. And then we can see that there are nations operating from nation awareness. The ones in bright blue are full democracies, and the ones on the right are still emergent democracies. And then we have from nations operating from state awareness 1 and 2. And I've used 17 global indicators to do this allocation, and I'll be launching that website actually tomorrow. So we'll now get to the breakout question, and I'm like 2 minutes late, Lawrence. I hope you won't wrap my knuckles. What do you think
Richard,
it would?
I think we're on perfect timing.
All right. Well, that's good news. Good news, depending whether you're English or American. So I'm going to hand it back to you. This is the question I would love people to discuss because I'm really interested in answers. Over to you, Lawrence.
Excellent. Thank you, Richard. So as we shift in here to come together in a collaborative sense, what I'd like everybody to do is let's spend, now we're going to be 3 minutes behind, Richard, so bear with me. But we'll shift consciousness on time. Let's all spend 1 minute of going into a moment of just presencing ourselves, a moment into silence, and really bringing yourself fully into this exercise. As Richard was saying, you know, this is quite possibly one of the most important initiatives and initiatives like this in the world today to raise humanity to a higher level of consciousness. Because regardless of whatever tools we use, if they're being used with a lower level of consciousness, they're going to be used in such a way. So let's all just take a moment, just center yourself. If you're driving, obviously don't close your eyes, but just really bring yourself present and just take a couple deep breaths. This busy world, just let your soul catch up with your body. Perhaps when you exhale, just let go of anything that's keeping you out of the present moment. Just let it go. Okay, and come on back. And as you come back into the room, let me take you through a little bit of some of the pragmatics of what we're going to do here. If you haven't done this before in a Zoom meeting, just fasten your seatbelt. We're going to have some fun. Going to break you out into groups. And in those groups, you're going to go out into a meeting. And in that meeting, there's going to be an amount of time where you're going to come together as a group and do your best to share time with each other equally. But the question is, what do you think it would take to get to the humanity awareness worldview in your country? So think about where you're coming from. Everybody's going to have a different perspective in the group, but talk about where you think what it would take to move to the next level of consciousness. And Heather, you can help me out. How long are we going to be in the groups? And we'll give you a message at the halfway point.
Absolutely. We're going to be in the groups for 7 minutes, but do not worry about keeping track. We will pop up like a 1-minute warning to kind of wrap things up, and then we'll all come back. Nothing will you won't have to press anything. We'll bring you right back in. And then if you can select a representative of your group to kind of come back and share. And I'm looking at my notes, Lawrence, and we're actually going to break out for 10 minutes. So I said 7, which is my favorite number, but we're going for 10 minutes.
That's great. So what we're going to do is we're going to break out into about 12 breakout rooms or so and have fun. We'll let you know at the halfway mark and give you a warning right before, about a minute warning before you come back. Have a good time and connect deeply with each other. And I'm about to send you off. Have fun. And when you see that little button appear, just go ahead and accept to head off to your room.
See you in a few.
And if you're still left here with us, that means you still need to click a button if you want to head out. I can see in here, and if you need some help, just speak up. I'll call out on a couple of you guys just because I can see you on the screen, but I can also see you in the room here, Carol Lynn, and I've got
Gil,
let's see,
and our Genevieve.
Genevieve.
And no worries if you're not comfortable and you'd rather not be in a breakout group, we'll put you right in the waiting room as well. So we'll give it a few more moments. And if you are having any problems, you want to go in a room, you just raise your hand, unmute yourself, share your video, and we'll make sure we get you in a room.
Okay.
Oops.
That was
Welcome
fast.
back.
No, I hit the button a minute early.
Welcome back, everybody.
All right, everyone. Welcome.
Welcome back.
So missing in the society that we have here in America.
Welcome back, everyone. If you could do me a favor, you are off mute in the rooms. If you can go ahead and select the mute button, that would be fantastic. So I hope you all enjoyed the breakout. What we wanted to do now is to bring everyone back in, open it up to share. Now, for some of you that know me, I'm actually here in Naples, Florida, taking care of my 3 little nephews while my sister and brother-in-law are away. And so we talk about academic and we talk about kind of getting into their head. What I want to just prompt the call is make sure that the answer is coming from the combination of the head and the mind and really the heart as you come out into the group and share. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. We want to hear from you. So really, and some of the question really, how do we really raise and go to a next level of higher consciousness? In this case, using the Humanity Awareness Initiative, but how do we bring that the next level to raise consciousness. I would love to hear from anyone that feels comfortable going first. Unmute yourself and jump in. We're going to share for about 10 minutes, and then we'll pass it back to Richard to do some more talking. So I can't see all the hands. I'm looking around my screen, but please, anyone, just unmute, jump in. Love to hear from you.
This is Tom Roush. I'll jump in. One of the things we're trying to do for the US is do a new US values assessment using Richard's values tools, because we feel those really can spark a discussion that people can relate to help take them to the next level of awareness.
Oh, fantastic. It's great. Tom, thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else? How about any other countries that were represented in the group?
I'm happy to jump in. I'm John, calling from London in the UK. So I have a background in psychosynthesis therapy, and I really believe that self-awareness should be introduced into schools, and that kids should be taught about, their emotions, their mental health, taught about awareness of self, awareness of others, awareness of community. So I think all of those things don't get taught in schools. And it's only something that people, if they choose to, that's the journey they'll go on probably later on in life, and something that will be a more privileged thing that people access. So I think having that access in schools could just make such a huge difference further on down the line, so people have that awareness and look out for one another more.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I want to keep the flow going, but a little look ahead. Richard's going to be talking about one of the initiatives that's focused directly on that, and it's so critical, like Bildung, which taught the youth for the next generations. So who else? This is great. Just jump right in.
Hi, this is Marcello here. My idea is we should try 1 year. Every man leader will pass it on to a woman leader. That's 1 year of women leaders in the world. And that's it, very simple, and I think it could work very well. Thank you.
Beautiful.
That's a great idea.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Moses
Hi, Moses.
Machi. Thank you, from Zimbabwe. So one of the things that I'm involved in, I'm an educator by training, but we are working on developing a model, kindergarten ECD learning, but which is focused on value-driven leadership approach, leaning from Ubuntu, which is a local African philosophy, translated roughly as I am because we are. So the focus there is on interdependence, self-confidence, and resilience building as part of the model that we are trying to explore. So it's something which is still new, but that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Moses. I'm going to say quickly, just for everybody, this is the essence of what we do here. And so there's going to be, remember, that individual, bilateral, and collective coming together so we can lift each other up with our great work. Heather will tell us at the end how we can have kind of a central point of contact so everybody can come together to be able to share and connect with each other. So thank you, Moses. Thanks for the great work.
Can I make a contribution, Heather?
That would be fabulous, Peter, please.
So in one of our businesses, what we're doing is we're deploying what we call regenerative innovation consulting, where we're following the 9 principles of regenerative design and development. And because what we found is that in large corporates, discussions around consciousness are a bit too esoteric for many leaders in organizations, and it freaks them out a little bit. So with the regenerative approach, we call it a thinking technology, which enables them to frame it within what they already know and what they're already comfortable with. But it's actually a bigger process where then the worldview starts to shift and they start to recognize themselves as part of a living systems network. And then part of what they design, whether they be business models, investment strategies, or innovation initiatives, are designed within this living systems framework where circles of impact become nested. So the development of self at the same time happens in parallel to the development of the communities or the stakeholder groups within which they participate in their ecosystem. And that in turn happens simultaneously while the systems, the broader systems, are impacted. And so this separation of self from impact starts to actually come together within a reflective of a natural systems way of viewing the world and how we participate in it. And I think that if we can start to get shifts at a global nature happening like that, then I think we can try to accelerate this shift towards more of a humanity consciousness or beyond.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Lawrence.
Just let's keep going. Beautiful. We've got a few more.
Genevieve,
Can I represent group 3? I think we're room 3, where we have people from Saudi Arabia, Albania, Norway, and the United States, and I think Bob from Japan, if I'm not mistaken, and Beth from UK. So basically, the intervention is around the education and the education system and the education content. So in Norway, Richard expressed that this has been done in the past, and it should reach to the country to reach a higher level of consciousness, but yet focusing on self-development, self-management, not on the technical skills is essential at this stage. And he does believe that it will reach us to humanity awareness. Also, in the United States, in Miami, more focus on environmental science in education will make the people more aware about the surroundings and the environment and the welfare in general. So that is also the education is the agreed upon intervention within the group. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. Genevieve, I see you're on mute. I saw your hand being raised. Would you like to share?
I would. Thank you, Heather. I feel that this is my personal feeling, but it's like, if we don't bring women into the equation around politics and education and money and power, that all the other SDGs will fall by the wayside. We absolutely have to empower women, give them agency, allow their independence, provide resources. If we don't bring women into the equation, everything else will fail. That's just my view.
Genevieve, fantastic. That piggybacks that male leaders passing it on to female leaders. Heidi Kapari, I know you want to speak, and we have about 2 more minutes, and then we're going to switch back over to Richard, and we're going to continue the conversation. But Heidi, I'll pass it over to you.
We'll have a chance for another breakout coming up
Yes.
too. So.
Hi, everyone. I'm
Hi,
sorry
Heidi.
I don't have my camera on. My 12-year-old son installed this snap camera and it's conflicting with my webcam. I'm sure all of you, many of you with kids at home can relate. Okay, so I want to address the powerful women. I am doing a women's power breakfast on Clubhouse. So anyone who wants to connect and do that, drop me a LinkedIn message, and I will make sure you get that. We're going to do the most powerful female, highly visible women, vulnerable, powerful, and connecting women. And we're also going to be doing facilitating capital for women-led investments. And then on the youth side, a group of us are coming together, so cross-sector leaders, so people here will be invited when we put out our call for pilot partners, is we're basically going to be developing a game with youth, designing a game for their own education that solves the sustainable development goals using decentralized finance, blockchain, AI, and paired with access to Wi-Fi in the most remote areas and a secure digital wallet to give them, young people everywhere, the ability to make change in their community on the ground.
This is great. This is great. This is great, Heidi. If you would do me a favor, I'm sorry to
I'm
be
done.
The
I'm
timekeeper.
good.
Fantastic. Listen, do me a favor though, because this is the beauty of Future Capital. As we get together individually, bilaterally, collectively, put your contact information, Heidi, so individuals can reach you. But hold those thoughts. I know a couple people had their hands up. What we're going to do right now is pivot back to our good friend Richard Barrett, and then Lawrence to kind of co-facilitate the next section. And then we're going to go back out in the breakout rooms and come back for some more sharing. But Richard and Lawrence, I see you're unmuted. I don't see Richard on the screen yet, but I'm going to pass it over to you two to continue our conversation for our part 2.
Off to you, Richard.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
We can, Richard.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for, yeah, that was brilliant. I love that. I love that. You know, I think 5 out of the nations in the 7 nations operating from people awareness have women prime ministers. But when you get down to the next group, those in wealth awareness, only 1 out of 9 have women as a leader. So, I mean, you know, let's go for it. Girl power, I say.
Right on.
Yeah, right on. Now I got to figure out what I'm doing here because I got lost there. All right, there we go. I was so fantastic. And you know, the Humanity Awareness Initiative isn't a 5-year program, a 10-year program. I think it's a 50-year program, and it's based on education, and particularly education of young people, because that's how we're going to get there quickest, basically. All right. So, what about implementation? Well, we're thinking about having a global core team. We already have that in a way, but it's more like a community group. But we're going to, just last week, I started to initiate proceedings to form a not-for-profit company. And so we'll have an inspirational advisory group, which is pretty much the group we have right now. And then we'll have financial sponsors group. And we just beginning to think about that. And then we'll have country teams. So each country will have its own team, which will be a core team and an advisory group and sponsors. So it's like a mirror of the global idea in each country. And so that's where we are. I mean, it's still evolving, but that's where we are right now. The Humanity Awareness Initiative website was just finished 3 days ago. And so, wow, good timing, eh? And that'll be on your in the chat box. So who are we addressing? You know, who are the people we're going to be producing programs for? Well, here are some of them. Well, families of wealth. My gosh, families of wealth have a huge impact on the world. You know, 500. What is it? 500 people own half the world's wealth. Lawrence could help me with this one, but you know, it's like, wow, we need to get these people aligned. Then there's political leaders. You know, in many of the countries in those top nations in consciousness, they have coalition governments where you go down to the next level, like the UK and the USA, and we have, you know, 2-party systems which don't work at all. You know, we got to move beyond the 2-party system. Of course, business leaders have a big role to play. You know, I've always said that society is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment, and business is a wholly owned subsidiary of society. And well, if you want proof of that, COVID-19 is the proof. You know, society crashed and business crashed. So there is a new role for business, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then there's mature adults. You're wanting to find meaning and purpose in life. This is the self-actualization group. And then young adults who are individuating and want to find freedom and autonomy to be who they are and to get out from under the cultural conditioning and parental conditioning. And then teenagers who need to learn these moral concepts that we talked about in our particular group, and children who need to know about and preschool, they need to know about 3 things. 1, how to self-express. Secondly, how to connect with other people. And thirdly, how to contribute. Now, those 3 things are at the heart, I believe, of soul awareness: self-expression, connection, and contribution. If you can live a life like that, you'll find meaning and purpose and happiness. There's the longest study ever done by Harvard University, still ongoing, over 70 or 80 years now, called the Harvard Grant Study. And they found, having followed 200 or 300 people for over 75 years, that there's only one thing that really contributes to success. And it's not fame and it's not wealth, it's the quality of relationships. And it all boils down to one word: love, basically. And that's coming from Harvard. So that's good news. So there will be an inner and outer curriculum tailored for all these different audiences. And here's a quick example of some of the key topics of the inner curriculum for business and some of the key topics for the outer curriculum. So becoming conscious is right there at the top. And I define becoming conscious as 3 steps. 1, being aware of how your actions and behaviors impact other people and the planet. Becoming aware of how your thoughts and beliefs impact your physical and mental health. And thirdly, caring about the impacts of your action behaviors and the impact of your thoughts and beliefs on other people and on yourself. So becoming conscious and then exploring your values. We're going to move from belief-based decision-making to values-based decision-making and so on. So if you go to the website, you'll find this examples of curriculum for all of these different audience groups. But it won't be just HAI doing that. We'll be supporting existing initiatives. So there's a sign-up form. If you're doing a program that aligns with the core principles, there's a space on the website where you can fill out that form, and then what we will do is we'll feature your program on the website as a program, a training education program that actually supports the HAI core principles. Because, you know, obviously we want to be a container in a sense for this new worldview. So there are many things going on in the world right now, and they're all going in a great direction. But what is that direction? Well, the new worldview actually provides a container, I think, for that direction. Or you may disagree, but that's what we believe. So core principles: becoming conscious, internal alignment, and values-based decision-making. Again, you can go to the website, find out more about that. I don't want to go through those, so it's all defined on the website. Now, what about the potential impact? Again, you'll find all of this on the website. So I've wrote about it in my book, Worldview Dynamics. What is the potential impact of humanity awareness in all of these sectors? I'm not going to go through all of these, but just to give you a glimpse, you know, on finance, in the worldview of humanity awareness, will apply higher consciousness to the use of financial capital, this force for good, which came out of the Future Capital Initiative. We'll build new economic and financial systems that bring prosperity to all. Education, this is the key, as everybody mentioned, this is the key, and it's got to start with child-centered values-based education programs where children are supported in developing their natural gifts. They're not put through a machine to support the dominant worldview, which is right now. I mean, in the wealth awareness, many countries in wealth awareness, you know, the education programs just produce economic children. You know, I mean, they're taught how to be in that world, and by the time they get to 21, 22, only 2% of them are actually have genius level creativity, whereas if you go back to the age of 4 or 5, 100% of them had genius level creativity. We've got to change our education systems. Leadership. We need leaders with what I call full spectrum consciousness, operate at all 7 levels of consciousness. They can face situations without fear because they have trust, a deep trust. And if I may use the word again, a deep trust in their soul of doing what is right because they know themselves. They have this inner alignment where they can feel what is right and what is wrong. We all know when we make mistakes or we're not operating at our best because we feel it energetically. So we need to teach leaders how to do that. And of course, you know, women leaders are much better at this because they're brought up differently. Men are taught at the second stage, the conforming stage, you know, they start to compete and to be the best. And we need to shift from being the best in the world to being the best for the world. And then business. So we want to create meaningful economies that help people to thrive psychologically. We need businesses that help people to thrive psychologically. And we had some comments to that extent. So I'm not going to go into all of these. You can find all of these on the website. I just wanted to highlight some of them. So we come now to the second question that we want some help with here. And I'm, you know, I want to thank you all for showing up, not just to listen, but for your thoughts, because, you know, all of these thoughts are great, and will help us co-create this movement, more than an initiative and a movement. So what are your thoughts on the best ways to move forward with the Humanity Awareness Initiative and get people involved? So that's the question, Lawrence, and I'm going to hand over to you and your beautiful Heather to help me answer that question.
Richard, you know, compliments will get you everywhere. Thank you so much.
Well, I know
and you must have been reading my mind. You are right on time. So we are going to go back out into our breakout groups. We're going to be coming back together at 1:15. So we're going to have 6 minutes. So give enough time to share the mic, come back. I can't wait to come back and hear what you guys, the good conversations that you're having. We'll make sure we put the question in the chat. So Lawrence, whenever you're ready, let's break us out into groups.
Okay, great. Have fun. We'll give you time to let everybody speak. And then when we come back in, let's have a nice open conversation. Have fun.
See you soon. So if you can just go ahead, Lawrence has asked for you to go into a group. If you can go ahead and select that. Richard, if you would do the honors of stop sharing, that would be wonderful, your screen. And we'll see you in a few moments, everyone. Fantastic. Great, we'll see you in a few.
And if anybody needs any help, or if you're choosing just not to go in, that's fine too.
Yes.
We'll put you into a waiting room in a few minutes if you're not heading into the breakout room. Or we'll put you in now.
I get a little excited. Hold on.
Now.
Right, everyone, welcome back. See people starting to come back in.
Those are our waiting room. Yeah. The other ones will be about 20 seconds.
Okay.
Steve goes out and then.
Welcome back, everyone. It's great to see you. Hope you've had some inspiring conversations in your group. If I may ask everyone to put themselves on mute, that would be great. So I want to get going. The question, what are your thoughts on the best way to move forward with the Humanity Awareness Initiative and get people involved? I'd love to hear from some people who haven't had an opportunity to speak. Go ahead and unmute, and I'd love to hear what you guys have come up with in your group. Naleen,
so in our group, we talked about what is consciousness, and you know, I've been thinking about this because unless it's a sort of a journey, because you can't push people into saying, oh, raise your consciousness, but how do you do that? And I think it's about the holistic process, which of course starts with holistic education as well. So unless self-awareness is taught and people sort of from a very young age understand, because I personally feel that looking around, everybody talking about consciousness, because the way we have fiddled with human mind, we could be again fiddling with something, which is consciousness, which could be dangerous. And I'm coming from a spiritual perspective, and we believe it's a journey that you have to take. I personally feel that, and this is what we discussed in our group as well.
Oh, that's so exciting. I'd actually love, Richard, can you respond to that? A quick response?
Oh, yes. Well, I don't know. I'm saying yes, but.
Well, would you? Maybe I should rephrase the question. Would you have a quick respond to that? I know you.
Yeah, sure. I've defined consciousness for many years now as awareness with a purpose, and the purpose of consciousness is always to maintain internal stability and external equilibrium, and that applies to frogs, atoms, nations, organizations, and anybody else. Awareness with a purpose, and the purpose is always to maintain internal stability and external equilibrium. And if you can't do that, you're going to cease to exist. Now, more recently, I've come to the realization that actually that internal stability and external equilibrium is about inner peace. And I've been living in inner peace now for on and off. It's become familiar to me, but recently it's become very familiar to me. And so, it's really like, oh, yeah, I'm able to operate at all 7 levels of consciousness without any needs. And I just feel, aha, there's nothing I need from the universe because my soul takes care of everything. I'm not going to say any more on that because I want to hear from everybody else.
But I love that. Let's continue that aha. Is there any kind of aha that came up in the group? I'd love to hear from you all. Feel free to unmute and jump right in. Thank you, Richard, for that response.
I have a question. Is anyone here, I think it might be the youngest individual here. Is anyone here younger than 32 or 33?
Yeah, I'm with you, brother.
Okay. Cool.
Welcome, Alex. That's great.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering from all you guys, because you're absolutely more experienced than I am in life, sort of how you
Okay, Alex, I'll say.
Sorry. Yeah, like how you see the world and like capital allocation. Because I'm trying to do something good for the world, but I'm not capital focused. And that makes it very difficult for me to, just simply to pay my rent, because I'm working full time in this social enterprise. And so, obviously there's levels of trust which are involved and but if you truly want to make the world a better place, you also have to be of the world and in the world. And that's a struggle I'm going through now. I'm just wondering, from anyone who's more experienced, have you been able to reconcile that? And if so, how? And yeah.
Well, that's a great question for the
Brilliant.
group, Alex, and great step. Welcome home to this community. And I'm glad you're asking those questions. Those are really important. Anyone want to take a stab, Lawrence?
Yeah, I'll just Alex, there's that's a whole series we could do, which, is a very rich and deep question. And I can feel in your, the way you're delivering the energy of your question, there's lots of layers to it. I certainly don't have all the answers, but one of the answers is to convene the multi-stakeholder type of people like this in Future Capital Group, meaning all different ages, all different backgrounds, diversity, from private banking to public banking to indigenous wisdom, and to have these conversations because they're very important. And that is the whole point. I know it's not an answer I'm giving you, but I'm telling you from my heart, that is the point, that is the essence of this. We also have a lot of representation of youth with partnerships, which I forgot to talk about on the front of this call. But let's stay tuned and we'll continue those conversations as we go. Richard, if you want to say anything.
Yeah, I do.
Coming up with 8 minutes left, but I'm sure you have a response as well.
Yeah, I want to put Jack Taroni on the spot because Jack and I have been working together for quite some time. And Jack, tell them about our project, Punchy.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, yeah, I've been listening intently through the course of this call. It's been beautiful hearing, everyone sharing. I'd just say that for me, there's a metaphor and image that's coming up, which is with regards to this, we don't want to be leaning forward and it be a directive in a sense that, it may come from the pulpit or there's an element of preachiness. The way I really identified with what another fellow Londoner was saying on the call about, coming from a psychosynthesis background and introducing those ideas into, the education and into schools. And what I've been working on, and it's been a long journey, is I've devised, I'm a musician first and foremost, but I also have experience as a marketeer for Casio, which is obviously a big global corporation. But for me, it's about, when I met Richard has transformed my life in the sense that, the awareness of ego-soul dynamics is something that is the big shift that if we're able to introduce that to young people in a way that is relatable. I was in one breakout group where the lady was talking about a computer game. And so that for me is really speaking in the language of teenagers, but obviously introducing values that will have a long-term impact on their lives. And for me, what I'm doing as a musician is I've composed a musical which is based on Richard's book, What My Soul Told Me. And in that show, you have the ego appearing as a character and you have the soul appearing as a character. So you can see there's a recipe for real drama there, as we probably all experienced that in our own lives in some way. But the reason why I feel this idea is taking hold, and it's got to quite a mature state, we've got a full cast of actors, and really it's only sort of COVID dependent that we're really sort of at this moment at a slight juncture with moving it forward as much as we would like to. But my thing with this is that, you know, people don't necessarily want to feel preached at. They just want, and the way to elevate consciousness for me is going to be about engaging with people in a way that they can subconsciously take in these ideas, and actually it's seeding it, and over a period of time, and just being aware of Richard's tools in his books and the models that he exists, because no one gives you a roadmap in life, you know, as to, you know, where's the journey, where's the end game with this. And so for me, yeah, I think you can present that to audiences, and the arts is a really great way of doing it. But I'm very curious to learn through the course of this group meeting about other channels for raising awareness. But yeah, I just think that's the way, is to present it in a way that people can digest it easily.
Just to add, there's a great line in the musical where the main character encounters his soul, and he says, you know, who are you? And he says, I am you. And he says, I don't know Hugh. Who are you? No, I am Hugh. Oh God, that makes me laugh every time. Anyway, sorry, enough on that. Let's move on.
Fantastic. So I'm looking at my time clock. I want to, Jack, thank you. Alex, thank you. Thank you all for your questions and your participation. I want to pass it over quickly to Richard for a few words before he passes it off to us. And I want to remind everyone, this is not the end, this is just the beginning. But I wanted to pass it over to Richard. Thank you so much for spearheading and leading us during this beautiful workshop. Oh, look, my thanks are really to, can you see my screen? Yes, good. I just, I'm so grateful to the team. I'm also grateful for you sharing all your thoughts, which will be an opportunity for me to take those on board, and the team to take them on board. There's some of our team are here. But there are many ways in which you can get involved. If you're a parent, a school teacher, you can become an advocate, you can become an ambassador, and you can bring this whole HAI to your community, your organization or nation. And so these are things that you can do by as an advocate, as an ambassador, as a consultant, and as a financial sponsor. And we'll have training programs. So you can go online. In fact, I think tomorrow we're going to send everybody the e-learning course on humanity awareness, and you become an advocate. Just simply take a look at that. If you want to become an ambassador, then you've two or three courses that you can do around humanity awareness, becoming conscious, of course, stages of development, evolution of national conscious. You can join us as if you're experienced in these domains, and you'd also become a financial sponsor, because we're going to need some money, quite a lot of money, to get this all off the ground. And then you can also, I write about all of this in my book, Worldview Dynamics. That's my last book. It came out just at the beginning of the year. So go to humanityawareness.org, sorry, humanityainitiative.org. That you can see it at the bottom if you really want any more information. And once again, a big thank you. Over to you, Lawrence.
Richard, can they get some of the slides and this content on your website yet?
No, you go to SlideShare and /Barrett Values. Heather, perhaps you could put that link in the chat box, and you can get all of the slides, full set of the slides. It's out there already, out in SlideShare.
Yes, so I just put it in the chat, that slideshow. I also put a few other links. I put the links to your website, and I put the 2 press releases for the original founders meeting and the Capital Group. I put how to contact us. And then Lawrence, I'm going to pass it right over to you.
Okay, great. I am being conscious of time. So we're coming to the top of the hour. And Richard, I just want to say thank you very much for your time and sharing this with all of us. And for some of you, it'll be a curiosity and a little spark inside of you. For others, it will be something that you'll want to jump on directly. I want to remind everybody that every month we do something. Next month, we are going to have 3 people that we always highlight, different people every month that are doing work in the Nexus of Consciousness and Capital. All of you are open, please, to share. Please reach out to Heather directly if you'd like to be part of that. And we would love to share what you're doing in the world. And then the opposite month, we're doing these lovely workshops that Patty started leading for us. We always, at the end, with 1 minute left, what we always do is we always end with silence. And we just really, I'd like to ask everybody to visualize you know, in a world that's so disparate about us, them, and the fighting. And, you know, we're in the midst of what I call in my book a 3rd season, where we're being woken up by our mother and being put into our corners to have a little time out to think about what we've done. So why don't we all just collaboratively now, what I'd like to do is end with, if we just all come presence together and we come for a moment of silence. You can keep your eyes open or close your eyes if you'd like. But I'd like for you to each visualize yourself, your own purpose, your special soul, like a snowflake, no two alike. That thread coming out to the rest of this group that's here with us and weaving together to support each other and uplift ourselves and humanity and coming together. And when you feel so inclined, just drop off. And there's no right or wrong time to drop off. Sometimes people hang around for a while. And if you want to just go right away, certainly understand you might have something at the top of the hour. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being who you are and having the courage to live your dreams.